All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Western. I am Cicely Grocer, Ledbetter, the Associate Vice President for Counseling, Health, and Well-being. And we are honored to have Governor Inslee and several legislative leaders on campus with us today. You know, Governor Inslee, we are excited to have you here with us today. You know why? Here's why. September 2021, President Rosales sent a powerful signal to our campus when Western became one of the first among 8 institutions in the United States to become a health-promoting campus by adopting the Okanagan Charter. It was much more than signing a document at a fancy ceremony. It reaffirmed that we are committed to embedding health, equity, and sustainability into our academic, operational, and administrative systems and settings. This is a lofty goal, and we are on our way. Western believes that well-being for everyone includes the health and safety of all of our students and our employees. So, I am honored and I am proud to be introducing a governor who gets it. A Washington State governor who's a 5th-generation Washingtonian who's lived and worked in urban and rural communities on both sides of the state. Governor Jay Inslee began serving as the governor of this beautiful state in 2013. Under his leadership, Washington is consistently the only state that ranks as the best place to work and the best place to do business. Please join me in welcoming Governor Jay Inslee.
Thank you. It is a joy to be on the Vikings campus. You know, my third son, Joe, is now building trails in King County. Thank you to the Western Washington University community for all the great work they've done in the state of Washington and my family. I want to thank you for being here today. We may welcome the rain today to help suppress some of these fires, but we have to recognize there are storm clouds on our horizon in the state of Washington because there are those who would like to threaten the right of a woman to exercise her right of choice in the state of Washington. We are here on the campus of Western Washington University to say this very strongly. Washington State was a pro-choice state. Washington State is a pro-choice state, and we intend to make it a constitutional amendment so that Washington State will always be a pro-choice state. This right needs to be enshrined in the basic foundational document of the state of Washington, and that is our Constitution. It is the place where we show immutable commitment to our fundamental rights. And the right of a woman to exercise her private right in this most intimate decision is a fundamental right that needs to be protected in the state of Washington Constitution. Now, why is it necessary to be in the Constitution? It is necessary because there are threats every day to the woman's right of choice in the state of Washington. In the last few years, Republican legislators have introduced 40 bills to try to reduce or eliminate a woman's right of choice in the state of Washington. And those gates have been thrown open to those malicious attempts to strip women of this right of choice by the Dobbs decision in the U.S. Supreme Court. And this is both a national and a statewide effort to take away this woman's right of choice. Now, this is not just sophistry or rhetoric. Look what the former Vice President said, Mike Pence. He said, Republicans must not rest and must not relent until abortion is banned in every state in the United States. Washington State needs to put this in the Constitution to stop this Republican attempt, not just this year, not just next year, but every year, as long as we are a state in Washington State. Accordingly, we will introduce a constitutional amendment, and I'll ask legislators to move forward in this regard. Now, this is not the only thing we need to do. We need to take more action in the short term as well. We know we have had a long record of supporting our right to contraception and reproductive health, and we today intend to make that part of this constitutional amendment as well. But we want to make clear that we recognize this is important for women across the United States. Accordingly, we intend to take statutory action, make Washington State a sanctuary state for those American women to exercise this right. I have moved already in this regard. I directed our state patrol to refuse to cooperate with these attempts by other governments to intrude in Washington State to prevent women from accessing this right here in the state of Washington. Immediately authorized the expenditure of over $1 million to help our reproductive clinics to be able to handle the surge for women coming to the state of Washington. And I have joined Governors Newsom and Brown of Oregon in a West Coast joint effort to make sure that reproductive care is available on the West Coast. But we have more work to do. Fortunately, we have some great leaders in our state legislature. I'm going to turn now to Representative Sharon Shewmake, who has led some efforts already to address how we protect women's right to abortion in the state of Washington. Representative.
Thank you so much, Governor Inslee, and thank you all for being here today to stand up for basic freedoms. We have the freedom to make the most personal decision of your life, whether or not to become a parent, and we're not going to give it up. Since the DOP decisions, I have found that my constituents are super mad and super engaged because this is not okay. And when the Republicans are asked about it, they won't tell you where they stand. Sometimes they'll say things like, well, you know, it's already been decided, yada, yada, yada. No, that's not enough. You need to tell us where you stand because every single year, Republicans introduce bills to ban or restrict your basic freedoms. Your basic freedoms, and that is not okay. There's also a lot of work to be done when other states are suddenly banning abortion. So what happens to the licenses? The doctor who provides an abortion when an activist in Alabama gets angry. We need to make sure that we're protecting those doctors, those medical licenses, so the women, the nurses, the doctors, all the healthcare professionals can make sure they're able to exercise their right for who decides to become a parent. What happens? The governor spoke about sanctuary laws. You listen to the Republicans and they think that sanctuary means that we're somehow publicly funding a whole bunch of people to come here. No, that's not what it means at all. And the fact that they're lying shows how out of touch they are with the people of this state. So we are going to stand, we are going to be energized, and we're not going to forget the fact that this is incredibly important. We have hard policy work to do, and we have a lot of organizing work to go forward and bring this national so we don't see national abortion bans. We codify Roe at the federal level, and we protect everyone's freedoms to make this incredibly personal decision that politicians in Olympia, DC, all these other places have no right making. It is your individual right, not theirs. Thank you.
It's great to have a strong, passionate leader like that, but she's just voicing what Washingtonians feel right now. You're under attack. You're under attack of this fundamental right. And unfortunately, some legislators have tried to hide under this camouflage blanket. But we got to understand that threat exists. And that's why we intend to put this in the state constitution and adopt additional statutory protection. Well, we also need to protect privacy rights in the state of Washington. Unfortunately, there are places where we have holes in our safety net to protect your privacy right of what you decide in this most intimate decision. We are not going to allow people to intrude into the data banks to find out who is exercising their right of choice. We are not going to allow them to intrude on our data banks to find out who's exercising their right to contraceptive services. That means we need statutory protection. We have two great leaders to talk about bills in that regard, Representative Vandana Slatter and Senator Moncadinga. Vandana.
Awesome.
Hello, thank you so much for coming out today. Can I just see how many students we have here today? How about it? Thank you so much. My name is Vandana Slatter. I'm a mom, a pharmacist by training, and a Washington State legislator. On June 24th, 2022, the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade and the constitutional right to safe and legal abortions. I remember how unthinkable that moment was, to take away a constitutional right. Here in Washington State, I'm proud to say that we continue to have access to safe and legal abortion and reproductive health care. But we have more work to do to ensure that nobody in our state is left behind and that we safeguard those who travel here. When the Supreme Court overturned our right to health care and bodily autonomy and said it is up to each state, what they were really saying is that access to abortion is only for the rich, powerful, and privileged. But we will not leave behind pregnant people in Texas or Idaho or here in Washington. Now, more than ever, we have to ensure that reproductive care is accessible, affordable, safe, and private. It makes me think of a young college student having sex and the condom breaks. She's scared. She lives in Texas. She wants to make her own decisions about her health and her future. She doesn't have easy access to Plan B and wants to know her options. So just like any of us would do, she goes online so she can see where she can go to have an abortion or reproductive health care. But what she doesn't know is that accessing this information puts her in harm's way. A recent article reported that for only $160, the equivalent of a quarter of the cost of the phone in your pocket, anyone can buy her search information from a data broker. They can find out where she lives, what clinics she has searched for, who her providers are, and she can be hunted and fined up to $10,000. And this could happen to women who travel to access abortion services in our state too. That is why I am introducing the Washington My Health, My Data Act, a bill that will ensure that our health data, information about our private health care decisions, about our bodies, cannot be collected or shared without our consent and cannot be bought or sold. Most of us expect that our health care data is protected under laws like HIPAA that protect you when you go and see a doctor. However, the reality is that you don't have the same protections when you share any personal health information in an app or website or searches. This leaves your data vulnerable to being sold or shared with people who may be targeting you. This means, for example, that your menstrual tracking app can sell sensitive information about a late period or a miscarriage. Women, people are sometimes lured to crisis pregnancy centers in their search for abortion care, only to find that they cannot receive an abortion at that facility. And while she is there, the crisis pregnancy center can collect her data and share it with anti-abortion groups or others. We're already seeing a huge increase in people traveling to Washington from Idaho and Montana and across the country seeking care. The latest estimates from the Guttmacher Institute, a reproductive health policy research organization, is projecting a 385% increase in patients from out of state seeking care. That is the number of people that would fill up the size of 3 football stadiums. Think about that. And most need to do online research to get here, finding transportation, locating a clinic, a provider, somewhere to stay. We need privacy laws to protect their information. I believe this is an important opportunity, this bill, to protect our health data, especially during this unprecedented time in which our constitutional rights to reproductive health care and bodily autonomy are being attacked across the country. Health care is a human right for everybody. That means accessible health care, affordable health care, and private health care. As a clinical pharmacist, I had the honor of testifying many years ago on the importance of Plan B in comprehensive reproductive care. As a legislator, I'm honored to sponsor the Washington My Health, My Data bill in the House this coming session to protect our health data and privacy in Washington State. I'm inspired to work with Senator Gingras on this bill, Governor Inslee, Attorney General Ferguson, Representative Shewmake, and all of my colleagues here today and especially inspired by every single one of you for standing up for the freedom to choose our future and to fight for the right to privacy. So today, I want people in Texas and anti-abortion Republicans across the nation hear our resolve. Can you say it with me? My body, my choice. My health, my choice. My data, my choice. Try it again. I'll say my body, you say?
My choice.
I say my health, you say?
My choice.
I say my data, you say?
My choice.
Actually, I don't think people can hear you in Texas. Read again. My body?
My choice.
My health?
My choice.
My data?
My choice.
Thank you.
I love always Representative Slaughter. Good afternoon. My name is Monica Tigra, the state senator from the 45th Legislative District, the deputy majority leader of the Senate, and I chair a law enforcement committee. It is unconscionable that women and LGBTQ+ individuals are being denied comprehensive health care all across our country. It is unconscionable that my mother had more rights than my two daughters right now. It is unconscionable that in the United States of America, we have to have sanctuary states so that women and LGBTQ+ individuals can access the full range of reproductive health care and gender affirmation. It is unconscionable that if I am on social media about accessing abortion pills, that information can be used against you in other states for criminal prosecution. It is unconscionable that your searches about accessing reproductive health care, gender affirming care, your geolocation, all the information that informed consumers need to make decisions can be used against you, but not in this Washington. My health, my data. In Washington, we will be ensuring that every entity obtains consent prior to collecting or sharing your health data. We're going to ensure that they're prohibited from selling your personal data to third parties. We're going to ensure that you have the right to have your health data deleted. And we are going to ensure that geofencing cannot be utilized around gender-affirming care, reproductive, and sexual health services. In this Washington, we are going to hold the bad actors accountable and protect the privacy and health data of all. It is critical that in this Washington, we establish best practices and be the national model for protecting the rights of women and LGBTQ+ individuals. I am honored to do this work with all the stakeholders that we have, our elected officials, our tech companies, and each and every one of you. Because we are not going back in Washington. We are going to be the beacon of hope for the rest of the country. But to do this, we need all of you, and I'm speaking specifically to all the students here. We need each and every one of you to speak up. We need each and every one of you to have your voices heard, and we need each and every one of you to vote. We need you, all your friends, your families, your neighbors, to vote for people who represent your values and are willing to fight to protect your rights. Just 5 years ago, only 5 years ago, the Senate was controlled by the Republicans. That's 5 years ago. We're not going to go back. We're going to continue to move forward. And so my plea to all of you today here is please vote. Thank you.
By the way, we are not advocating a vote for any particular party or candidate, but we are advocating to vote. And congratulations to Western Washington University, who I believe has the highest voter participation of any college. We've got some great leaders on this campus. I want to introduce one, Isabella Arnett, who is a graduate student in English, to share some thoughts. Isabella, thanks for your leadership.
Hi everyone, happy to be here. I just want to share a little bit about myself and my experience as a young woman and young girl growing up. The first time I had to defend access to abortion as a universal health care right, I was 13 years old in 8th grade. My English teacher at the time had held mock debates between my classmates and myself. On this particular occasion, I happened to be the only girl from class willing to debate with the opposing opinion. The first time I had to defend the right to abortion for anyone with a uterus was against 3 13-year-old boys. We stood before the class in the very front, behind silly fake podiums, and pretended to be adults. I, armed with all of the data that a 13-year-old could possibly get her hands on, had become so frustrated by their hate, their ignorance, and their misogyny that I began to cry. I lost. I was too emotional. It has since always bothered me that fearful, frustrated tears from a young girl warranted a loss that had become a moral debate rather than a humanitarian one, to 3 equally emotional young boys because I had cried and they yelled. I was too emotional. Abortion and all reproductive health care are deeply emotional, sensitive subjects, and the perspectives we as individuals hold are completely unique from one another. But this is not a matter of moral debate. This is a matter of autonomy and control over our own bodies without the involvement of oppressive governmental influence and dictation. Today, I am here with no tears. When I was 13, I learned how it felt to be silenced by the loudest majority, that my voice didn't matter. Well, here I am, bringing matter with my voice. As I mentioned, this is not a matter of moral inclinations. There is validity to your beliefs because your beliefs are rooted in conviction of what you believe to be true. But if we have learned anything from history, infringing upon someone else's beliefs is never the way to remain rooted to your own convictions. The matter of abortion access and reproductive health has become an attack upon bodies made systemically political. Because my body is now political currency, I know my power lies within my choice to vote with intentionality. And I'm here today to encourage all of you to do the same. Namely, when approaching Governor Inslee's proposed legislation, involve yourself, bring matter to your political voice, and defend the human right to make judgments for our own bodies without devastating political and legal consequences. I am no longer the intimidated young girl that will break down and cry, well, sometimes. Today I am a young woman who refuses to accept legislative restrictions to my own body. If you feel morally inclined to detest the right to have an abortion and passionately refuse to support the autonomous control over an individual's own body, that's fine. I have a solution for both of our differences. We should both mind our own business, and you should probably just not get an abortion.
I think Isabella's the winner this time, so that's good. I just want to make a little historical reference, having been involved in this effort now since 1988. Rudy and I have been fighting this battle since 1988, and I appreciate her leadership on this as well, because she's that stand-up champion. So we started this effort in 1988. That's quite a few decades ago. And every year, I was elected that year as legislator from Yakima Valley. But every year, the Republicans came back. And every year, they made a new effort to take away this right from the state of Washington. Let's end this debate in Washington State. Let's put this to rest. Let's unite and go on to other challenges. Let's put this in the Constitution and make this a pro-choice state forever. That's what we need to do. So that's what we're talking about. I would invite the other legislators here, Rule, McKenna, Robinson, Rommel, anyone who would like to add anything. Anybody else here? Oh, hello there. I didn't see you there. If anybody else would like to add anything, otherwise, you will, go ahead.
Okay, you know it.
Go ahead.
Hello, everybody. I am Liz Lovett. I am your senator right here in the 40th district. I am here today with all of my seatmates and partners in good trouble, Representative Lukianoff and Representative Rammel. Just know we are a unified front on any tax against your privacy, your body autonomy, and your health care. I'm honored today to be here also with my mom, who is not only a Western alumna, but previous agitator. And I'm so excited to have this intergenerational mix, because now I have 2 kids of my own that may be faced with a decision that they need to make about their own bodies. And so we are united in purpose, we are united in generations of advocacy, and we are here together knowing that you guys have the ability to turn the tides on election this year, next year, the year after. You can be an incredibly powerful voting bloc so we can ensure that these rights are permanently protected. And the piece of legislation that I will be working on this year is another privacy protection, and that is to protect the personal information of care providers, to make sure their addresses are exempted from public record searches, so they can continue to practice their trade and provide these necessary services without fear of having people come to their homes and threaten violence and harassment. So that's my dedication to you. Your dedication needs to be to vote, and I'll pass it over to my other incredible colleagues. Thank you.
We appreciate our colleagues and the power of silence as well. Thank you guys for your leadership. This is going to be a united effort. Okay, with that, everyone, go ahead.
Hello, everybody. It's so great to see you. I am your representative in the 42nd District, Alicia Rule. I'm a mother of 3. I'm a social worker, and I will always, always trust and stand with women. Thank you.
Okay, so we are happy to stand for questions from the media, please. If any media has any questions, feel free to. Yes.
Yeah, so with a 2/3 majority required to pass a constitutional amendment, do you have a strategy or approach to getting some Republicans on board with this?
Well, we're going to do everything we can to get the requisite number of votes. Voters have a right to make some decisions this November, and we're going to see what decisions endure on these particular seats. We are not advocating any particular vote by people at this press conference, but we are advocating for people to vote. And unfortunately, it is a situation today that one party intends to stand up for a women's right of choice, and one party wants to take it away. That's simply the reality. So we'll see. We'll count the votes after the election and hope that we get to this point. But it is necessary, and I would point out that the vast majority of Washington citizens believe in this right of choice in women. This is an extremely rock-solid position of the vast majority of Washingtonians. The Washingtonians elected a pro-choice governor by 500,000 votes in the last go-around, and we do see these folks as well. So we hope that we can get to this number. Any other easy questions? Okay, with that, let's go vote. Thanks a lot.